So last week, if you remember, I was talking about wanting to become a business consultant in nonprofits, and before God called me to open up the church, that was one of my greatest desires. And so in the church world, I always went to conferences, and I learned about leadership, and I learned about worship, and I learned all these things in the church world in conferences. So now this time that I want to pursue a life of business, I would do the same thing. I want to go to a business conference. And so I found this summit in Dallas. And I looked at, it was a 2-day conference, and there was multiple business owners and different guest speakers and headliners and things like that. And it was amazing. And I was so excited to be there in Dallas. And so I got my tickets. I went, I got a hotel, and I showed up. And it was amazing. There was Fortune 500 company CEOs that were there on the panel. There was people who created massive software companies in Silicon Valley. There was even a guy from the Shark Tank that was there. And they were all going to give their insight, the ins and the outs of business, marketing, startup, different things that help you get through your company's life cycle. But how many people know that whenever you think you're going to get a word from some direction, God can often speak to you through somebody else? You thought you were going to get your breakthrough with the sermon once the church service started, but you got your breakthrough in the first worship song because the words were speaking directly to you. Have you ever heard a worship song and it just broke you down on the inside? Just hearing the simple words of Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound. Our wretchedness of who we are. We were lost, but now we are found because of His amazing grace. Sometimes the song can do more than the sermon can. And I realized that just looking at the kids in praise and worship or people serving, that does more for my heart oftentimes than a 45-minute sermon. But today, this 45-minute sermon is going to be that thing that's going to change your life. Amen? Hey, the praise and worship was great, Casey. I can't lie. So I heard the messages and the panels, and it was awesome. I heard the different things that people did in order to get to where they are, and I was like, that's awesome. I took a few notes, but do you know where the real word that I took home with was not from the panel on the stage, but it was in the round tables when they said, in between the break, we have a few questions that we want you to ask the people that came with you or the people that showed up to the event also. And so there was a few questions that we would ask each other. And so one of them is, where do you come from? What do you do? And what do you plan to get out of this? And so I said, I'm in ministry. I plan to do business. I want to be a consultant, especially in the nonprofit sector. And this is why I'm here. And the next person went, and she was a lady from Pakistan. And she said that I'm here. I have 2 jewelry companies. I have a fashion company, and I'm here to scale my business. I'm already in the malls, but I want to be able to take it to another level. And so I'm here to be able to take it to another level. And I just was intrigued that she was here doing all of that. And I'm sitting around people that own CPA firms and different places, and I'm sitting in the conference with all of them, and I was amazed. And so the next guy, he starts speaking on his business and what he did. And they said, all right, for the next breakout, we have some more questions that we want you to ask the people at your round table. And so it was this questioning that the next one that I got my word. They asked this young lady, they asked me about your why. Why is it that you do what you do? See, oftentimes the what and the how, they can change. But that really doesn't matter unless you know your why. How many people agree with that? Why we do what we do. The why is what wakes you up in the morning. Why I got up this morning and preached another message this morning. Why? It was because all those connection cards and all those people who wanted to know Jesus for the very first time, and we see all these lives coming together. That's why I get myself up every single morning and do what I do. That's why you keep coming. It's because you're a part of something greater. You see something that is passionate. And when you know your why, that is the fuel in the tank to do the what and the how. And I listened to what this lady why was. I said I had a background, crazy background, didn't go into details, didn't want to scare everybody there. I was dressed up, looking nice. You don't want to show my mug shots and my pictures. And so the next person, I don't have mug shots, guys. I'm playing around. Plural, right? Mug shots. And so the next person, she goes And she begins to tell her why she does what she does. And she says that she was from Pakistan, and as a young little girl, she witnessed wars, and she witnessed murders, and she saw churches, and she saw things blown up. And her dad, her father, always told her, always said, I'm gonna get you out of here one day for my family, and we're gonna go to America, and when we get there, all I need is one opportunity. And when I get to America, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna make a change in our family's life. I'm gonna make a change. And that was the hope that these little kids and the wife held on to, was a dad saying that if we can just get to America, everything will change. I know, I just need one shot. I don't know about anybody else here. I don't know about anybody else there. But if I can just get one opportunity. Have you ever felt like that, church? If I could just get one more shot again at life. If I could just get one more shot at getting back to church, if I can get one more shot at a relationship, at business, at getting a job or something, deep down inside of you, and that's what he was saying, if I could just get one more chance. If I could just get one chance, matter of fact. And so they save up their money, they get to a port, they sail to Canada. They get to Canada and they ride a ferry or a little boat into America, and they sneak into America with a couple of dollars in their pocket and an entire family. And he has nowhere to go, but he is driven by his why, not the what and the how. That may change from day to day, but he was obsessed with his why. He understood why he was doing it. Every morning and every night, he saw his little baby's face. He saw his wife's face in despair and know that there has to be more. That was his why, his driving force, the factor about why he was coming to America. With just a few dollars, all he had, he was out in the streets trying to hustle up and buy something and sell something and buy something and sell something. And then he gets himself a little cart. And then he starts selling things on the corner, out the cart, anything that he can get his hands on. He does it more and more till eventually he buys a little shop. And then his shop sells out. Then he has to buy 2 shops and then 3 shops. And then a few years down the road, he opens up stores. And then more stores, and then he continues to buy stores, and then he's doing motels and convenience stores. He's doing anything that he can get his hands onto. And then you see this young 27-year-old lady from Pakistan saying that she is here because she wants to scale and advance her 2 already jewelry companies and her fashion stores. They're already in the malls of Dallas, and she's ready to take it to another level. My mind is blown. I want to know, what did it take? What happened that a man from Pakistan could come to America and say, give me one opportunity, and now his kids are all doing the same exact thing? I said, what was it? How did you know? How did you know that if I get to America, because look at all the Americans, there's 300 million. Think about the competition. Think about everybody who is here. How did you know that you, without a shadow of a doubt, would make it? He goes, because America isn't really good competition. He goes, we understand scarcity. America doesn't. But they think they do. But they don't. Americans turn on their shower and don't step in until the water gets warm. Not yet. Not yet. Okay. La da da. All right. Oils and back scrubber, face wash. Into climate-controlled water. Hold on, before you go into the shower, what do? If it's cold outside, you go to your climate control unit, right? Thermostat. In your unit, you put on the climate control of 72 or whatever you want. So whenever you get out of your climate-controlled shower, you can step into a climate-controlled atmosphere in an environment inside of a house. So you can have perfect temperature. Water, perfect temperature. House, to go get a Keurig in perfect temperature. Coffee on an iPad with high-speed internet. But we're broke. We're broke. We understand scarcity, she says. Y'all don't. She goes, we couldn't think about warming up our water. We had to walk a mile and pump water to have any water. We did not have. So what we have an advantage on all of the Americans is because we understand true scarcity. And Americans understand abundance. See, the rest of the world understands that America is the land of abundance. See, scarcity is the word for there's a shortage, right? A short supply. Abundance means that there's more than enough. In America, we always think we're in short supply, but the rest of the world knows that there's more than enough. And if I can just get one chance, get me to America. If I can get one chance, I'm going to tap into this abundance, and I'm going to make something of myself. Meanwhile, back at the ranch. Meanwhile, back in America, over here, our lives, we think that we are actually living in scarcity. And what the problem is that we look at the super rich people. We look at the Bill Gates, and we look at the Jeff Bezos and the Amazons and the Warren Buffetts, and then we look back at our life, and then we're upset with the way that we're living because we are not that rich. See, this is the craziness about America. Americans, most of them are rich and don't think they are. Did you know that over half of the world lives off of $2 to $3 a day? Half of the world lives on $2 to $3 a day. We make that in a few minutes, some of us. Some people, I don't know what you make. But think about that. Think about how much $2 or $3 a day will get you. Did you know that if you own a car, you are richer than 6 to 9%? Or you are in the top 6 to 9% in the entire world. That's how rich you are. If you own a house, you are in the top 3% of the richest people in the entire world. How many of y'all own a vehicle? You are in the top 6 to 9% of the richest people on the planet Earth. But how many of you feel rich? See, if you were to ask most Americans if they are rich, they would tell you, no, we're not. We don't feel rich. But the truth is this. Most of us opened up our closet today, right? How many of y'all have a closet filled with clothes? Right? You don't even want to raise your hand. Like, this is a trick question. I know it. With your Calvin Klein sweater, right? You're going to see a few of them, guys. There was a good sale, so y'all just act like y'all never saw it. You go into a closet filled with clothes. Some of y'all have 2 stories of clothes, right? How many of y'all have 2? Does anybody have 2 in your closets? Okay, I'm not going to ask that question. All right, a couple hands going up. Okay, I might. And what do you do, right? Raise your hand real quick. You open up, how many? All right, look, I know some of y'all did this morning. You woke up this morning, you opened up your huge closet with all your clothes, you even probably touched all of them, and you said, I don't have anything to wear. You ever felt that way? You got 25 t-shirts, bro, and you don't got nothing to wear. Put something on, the first thing you have. We have so many clothes that we think that we don't have anything to wear. After church, many of you are going to go eat at a restaurant, and you're going to pass the 8 restaurants that are not your favorite to get to your favorite restaurant, to sit down at a table so a lady can come and give you a menu, and you can say, this is what I want, and there's going to be a guy in the back. He's going to cook up your food, and they're going to serve it to you, and they're going to bring you drinks, and then whenever you're done and you're full and you're ready to go to sleep and go home on your Sunday nap, you give the person a tip and you leave. That's how rich Americans are. But most of them don't feel rich. But that's how rich we are. And she says, that's our advantage. Our disadvantage is that we live in scarcity. And y'all's advantage is that y'all live in abundance. But y'all's advantage has become y'all's disadvantage because you don't see the opportunity and the resources that are right underneath your nose. There are churches everywhere in America. There's an influx of Bibles. You can get them anywhere. Abilene is known for how many churches it has, right? Every town, the Bible Belt is known for that. And they all think they have the World Guinness Records. But you see empty churches. You see cases of Bibles, but you don't see a whole lot of people reading them. But they say in the countries where it's illegal to go to church, where it's illegal to have a Bible, you will see people in those churches and you will see people reading those Bibles. Why? Because it's scarce. And whenever something is truly scarce, you take care of it. She goes, America thinks they live in scarcity. They only have a scarcity mindset, but they actually live in abundance, and it has paralyzed them. That's why we knew when we got to America, those who really knew what scarcity was, we were going to take every opportunity to invest and to become what the American dream was really about, because we knew everybody was blind to the opportunity that was right underneath their nose, because most Americans don't think they are rich, but they are. But if you were to ask most Americans, listen, watch the dichotomy on this. Most Americans don't feel rich, but they are. But if you were to ask most Americans, are you generous? They would say, yeah. Are you rich? No. But would you consider yourself a generous person? Yeah, I think I'm pretty generous. But if you look at the statistic on Americans, on average, give 2.8% of the resources away. 2.8 of everything they own in 1 year is what the average American goes. But if I had more money, I'd give it, right? I mean, once I start making more money, I'll give more money, right? Have we all heard that before? Maurice determined that was a lie. We looked. The records came in. We checked those who make 100,000, and the lie detector test determined that was a lie. Because those who made 100,000 or more, it actually starts going down. 2.6% of all the resources that people have, they give away of those who make 100,000 or more. And so what you start to see is that there's this cycle of scarcity, the mindset of scarcity that has plagued America. We have so many churches and so many Bibles that we end up not going. There's so many resources. We are actually the most wealthiest people on the planet, and we don't feel like it. So what ends up happening is that God supplies, we consume, we lack, because there's more month than there is money, and then we fear. God supplies, we consume, we eat, we spend, we buy, we clothe, we shop. God supplies, we consume, we lack, we fear. God supplies, we consume, we lack, we fear. And there is a cycle of scarcity. But how many people know that the Word of God is alive, true, and active, and He has given us every single thing that we need? Let me tell you what the Bible has given us. And today, it's not just money, scarcity. If you will realize, and you have seen in people's lives, it's an entire mindset on the way that people live. See, scarcity will creep into your prayer life. Because you don't know that God can supply all of your needs. You don't pray big prayers anymore. And you stop praying for God to put you in a situation where you could be used, where you could share your testimony, where you could pray for somebody, because I don't know how to pray for people, and I don't know how to share my testimony. And what if it doesn't work? And what if they say no? Because you don't believe that God can supply all of your needs, you stop praying bold prayers. Scarcity is a mindset, and it will creep into every area of your life. But I believe today, not only can we break the cycle, but we can shatter the cycle of scarcity. How many people are with me today? The Word of God is true, as much true today as it was back then. 2 Corinthians 9, 6-11 says, remember this, a farmer who plants only a few seeds will get a small crop, but the one who plants generously will get a generous crop. You must each decide in your heart how much to give, and don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure, for God loves a person who gives cheerfully, and God, everybody say God, my God, will generously provide all you need. Then you will always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. How many of y'all have Thanksgiving leftovers? All right. Y'all meet me after church. I'm going to need some of those. If you didn't pay your tithe, you can. It's tithe deductible, guys. You can give me some turkey. I'll take it. Or tamales or whatever. I want you to underline that. Highlight that. I want you to catch this, and I want you to pray about it. This is a God thing. This is a Bible thing. This isn't a preacher thing here. It says, and God will generously provide all you need. Then, y'all believe the Bible? So we know every time that God gives a promise, it's often followed by a principle, right? It's hard to ask God to bless your health if you want to eat everything you want to eat, right? It's hard to ask God to give you the peace when you keep putting yourself in situations that cause anxiety, right? And it's kind of hard to ask God to bless you financially. He's like, did you do any of the principles that I've given you? Okay, start there and then come back, right? So this is what he says. Promise, promise, promise. Then you will always, everybody say always, have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. As the scripture says, they share freely and give generously to the poor. Their good deeds will be remembered forever. For God is the one who provides. So who provides? It was God. So God is the one who provides seed for the farmer and then bread to eat. In the same way, he will provide and increase your resources and then produce a great harvest of generosity in you. It is in you. The generosity and the harvest is in you. The condition of your heart, it is in you. To break the mindset of scarcity and give you the mindset of generosity, the mindset of abundance, it's who you are. I don't pray little prayers anymore. I pray God-honoring, fear prayers that I know that if God does not divinely intervene into the situation, I cannot do it. That's how bold I want my prayers to be. Because if I can do it on my own, then why do I need God? If you pray a prayer that you can do on your own, just do it. But pray those prayers that God is going to give you the strength to change the world. Pray those prayers that God is going to give you the insight and the capability, the ability, the gifting that you need to get to a level that you have never been. It says, for God is the one who provides the seed for the farmer and then bread to eat. In the same way, he will provide and increase your resources, then produce a great harvest of generosity in you. Yes, you will be enriched in every way so that, this is the why, you can always be generous. My God. And when we take your gifts to those who need them, they will thank who? They will thank God. They will thank God. So the cycle of scarcity is God supplies, we first consume, we lack, and then we fear. But here the Bible says that God supplies, you gave, God multiplied, and he increased. To break the cycle of scarcity is to move from the first cycle of God supplies, we consume, we lack, and we fear. Then God says, let's do this again. God supplies, you consume, you spend it all, you eat it all, you clothe yourself, you lack because there's more than money, and then you fear again. So God says this, he supplies, we give, he multiplies, there's more left over, and it increases your faith. Because now that I sowed my seed, God gives me something, I sow that seed, it creates a harvest. It says that there's plenty left over. So now I can give to God, give to others, and enough for myself. And I know that there will always be more. Why? Because God provides. To break the cycle of scarcity is to understand the cycle of abundance. And it's really about faith and knowing that God will take care of your every situation. How many people believe that today? Amen. So I want to talk to you today about the tithe, the power of the tithe. It's I changed my mind, right? The title of it was I changed my mind. When that lady told me about where she came from and the scarcity and the opportunities in America, I changed my mind. I was like, there is no reason why any of us are suffering the way that we are. Most of us are just suffering mentally. They came. So not only is she a lady from Pakistan with an accent, 27 years old, she has everything against her. And she owns 2 jewelry companies and 2 fashion companies, clothing companies. And she still can do it. Why? Because she had changed her mind. She understood. And so today, when I want to talk to you about the power of the tithe and why I believe that if you change your mind, you will move from the mindset of scarcity to understanding the God of abundance, that he will provide everything you need. And I am not talking prosperity gospel. I am not talking you will get this beautiful house and you will get this car. I'm talking about all of your needs being met. spiritually rich. I'm talking about your prayer life. I'm talking about those things, and yes, your finances as well. So the tithe comes from a Hebrew word that just literally means 1/10, 10%, and that's it. It's just 10% that I give God 10% of all of my increase in all of my earnings. We see from the very beginning of the Bible that God was about giving, that Abraham gave to Melchizedek before the law was ever given. It was given in the law. Jesus fulfilled the law, but he confirmed it as well. And so we believe that the tithe is still a principle that we can live off of today. And so the first thing that I believe that the tithe does is that it teaches us to put God first. The Word of God says in Deuteronomy 14:23, the purpose of tithing is to teach you to always put God first in your lives. How many people know it's easy to say that, but it's hard to do that sometimes? Sarah she had a client, and her client was going through a nasty divorce. And this man was trying to take all the stuff. He was succeeding. He took the house. He was taking cars. He was taking all kinds of stuff from her. So she had to work 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And she was spiritually depleted at the church she was going to. She knew that there was more about God than what they were teaching her at that church that she was going. And so she was doing everything she could. 1 job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs. She's working, and she still feels like she cannot get ahead. Have you ever been there before? Like you just cannot get ahead. Every single 2 weeks that she would come back to see Sarah, she would tell her more and more and more how she's working and she's saving and she still can't catch up. And Sarah says, I don't want to get in your business or your financial business, but do you tithe? And she goes, well, yeah, I give to my church. And she goes, that's awesome, but do you tithe? She was like, what's the difference? I don't know what that means. And Sarah says, the tithe is 10% of what you make, that you set aside 10% and you give it to the church. She was like, oh, no, I didn't know that. That's what it was. I thought when they said tithe, you put something in the bucket. She goes, well, yeah, that's kind of what you do, but the tithe is 10%. Everything else after that is considered an offering or an act of worship. So she was open to what Sarah was telling her. And she got home. She worked 3 different jobs. At the end of the week, she calculated all that she made, and she gave 10% to her church. And see, Sarah gets nothing out of this. She didn't write a check to Rise Church. She wrote a check to her church because Sarah knew that it was going to bless her life, not Rise or her, but it was going to bless that lady's life. Sure enough, she writes the check, the 10%. The next time that she goes to see Sarah, she's bawling and she's crying. She says, do you know what happened? She goes, right after I wrote my check, an application that I had turned in at a church, they called me, and I just got hired as the children's church director. I get to teach and put curriculum together, and what I will be making is just the same amount as all 3 jobs put together. That's amazing, right? So not only did she get to do what she wanted to do, she got to change the type of church she was at and go to another church where they were going to teach her about the love of Jesus, about the grace of God, and she was going to do what she loved the most. More than that, she was going to make more than enough, because we believe that whenever you put the tithe first, that God will supply every single thing that you could possibly need. Now, I understand it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to do it. And when people tell me, like, I feel like I fell away. Have you ever felt like you lost your prayer life before? Right? Do you ever feel like you lost that connection? I always tell people, before you say that you're going to read 100 books and read the Bible from front to the end, and before you go to Mardell and purchase 3 books and all these Bible reading plans, I say this: what time do you wake up? I wake up at 7 o'clock. Set your alarm at 6:45. Wake up, put a few songs on, read 1 Bible verse, and sit there and soak in the presence of God for just 15 minutes. I promise you, there's something powerful whenever you put God at the first of your day. How many people have ever put God at the beginning of your day and everything just worked out? There is something powerful. Let me tell you, another thing that it does is that it helps produce faith in your life. It helps grow your faith. And for those who need a practical application, how many people have ever been not so happy with your health and you decided that you wanted to go to the gym? How many people, you took some time off and then you went to the gym? And then when you got to the gym, they were like, what do you want to work on? And you were like, all of this. The whole thing in one day, right? And then you try to grab some weights and you realize you're not that strong, and so you have to work out with the pink foam weights that are on the right. And you act like you're stretching, but really you're maxing out. But after you work out for the first time, and you work out hard, and you're sweaty, you did 2 or 3 hours, you haven't been to the gym in years, and you go to the gym, and whenever you go home, you look in the mirror, and you're already looking at yourself like if you see results, right? You know you do. Oh, still there. But the next morning, you stretch, and what happens? You're sore, right? Hey, Abe did this workout with me, with my legs, because they're so big, right? They're so massive, quads. He's like, your legs are so big that we're just going to have to fine-tune them down. No, I'm playing. I got tiny little legs. So we worked out. Hey, you don't make fun of my legs. You always do. They're cut, okay? They're tiny, but they're little. I mean, they're cut. So Abe puts me through this workout, right? Like eight different workouts on my legs. And every time that I want to give up, he tells me, keep pressing, keep pressing, keep pressing. And I feel like giving up. He's like, keep pressing. And I got to the end. Even my wife was there. She was working out next to us. And I laid down, and I was like, I was done. I got up, and I was like, my legs were like Jell-O. Have you ever been like that before? I don't know. You haven't worked out if you ain't been like that before. My legs were like Jell-O, and I laid down, and I was trying not to throw up, and I was breathing in heavy, like, the pre-workout, my belly was mixing up. I wasn't feeling good. I was like, I just need some water. And I thought we were done. And he goes, get up, just one more set. We're going to go heavy to end it. And in my head, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way I can do this. But let me tell you, just by looking at somebody, you can't tell that they're strong until you meet some resistance. Until you put weight on something, you don't know if you're strong. You may think that you could lift these weights, you grab it, and it falls on your chest. Why? Because you're not that strong. What do you have to do to get that strong? You have to exercise. Our faith is the same exact way. You don't know that you can get through something if you ain't ever been through anything. How do you know that you can get through a storm unless you've been through a storm? And what I've learned is that God will put us in seasons and situations in our life to strengthen us in this season so we can have enough strength to get through the next season when our kid is sick or something is happening and you need to be on point as a father or you need to have your love as a mother in your heart. And so we go through something behind the scenes so we will be prepped and ready whenever that season comes, because the very next day, whenever I woke up, I could not move my legs. I was walking like this down the hallway at work, and I felt like somebody was looking at me, but I kept walking, and my knee buckled out, and I heard, ha, 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 ha. I turned around, and it was Casey. She was like, I saw that. But do you know what I realized? Is that even though I was sore, it was a good feeling, because I know that my legs, my muscles, my everything, there was work put in so there could be growth. See, if you're not willing to stretch yourself to grow, you don't ever know that you have faith to grow. We were at a conference, and we always tithe as a ministry. We had always tithe, and the guy, we were closing out a 3-day conference in Phoenix, and he said, I want you, all the ministry leaders and the pastors, he goes, I want you to think, if your life has been changed, and this conference has done something great in your life, we want you to sow a seed into this ministry. This is the only time that they ask to give a donation. And I'm about giving. I believe that. I believe in sowing seeds. And I believe that this 3 days had impacted my life greatly as a father, as a spiritual leader. And so I wanted to sow a seed into this ministry. I agree wholeheartedly. So what I did was hurry up and try to give before my heart would say to give anymore. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I need to give. And so I'm going to write $250 for the whole thing. That's what I'm going to give. And before he could even finish his speech, I went ahead and got on their app and I gave $250. And then I pushed send. And I was like, all right, it's done. And he kept speaking. And I knew what I was doing. I was trying to hurry up and give before I heard the rest of his message. And he goes, and I'm not talking about one of those gifts that you just hurry up and give so God doesn't speak to you. I'm like, gosh. I'm like, where are you? And he goes, I challenge you to go to Prayer Mountain. They have a pavilion, a prayer pavilion. I want you to go to Prayer Mountain, and I want you to spend some time with God. We're going to come back in 45 minutes. And he goes, whatever God puts on your heart, that's what I want you to give. He goes, I want you to go back, pastors, leaders. I want you to go back to that faith testing, stretching, where you feel it all over again like you used to. And you're not doing it like that anymore. And that's what I was thinking about working out. Sometimes we work out and we just go do a little something until you do a workout where you really feel it and you know that there's going to get real growth from it. And I sat there and I thought about it. And I was like, I haven't done that. I haven't sowed a seed in any ministry. I haven't done that like in a long time. Not on that kind of scale. $250. Wow. Great. And I checked the account and we had $1,000 left. And I was like, from one ministry to the next, I'm going to give. We already purchased the flights. I was good. It was the last day. It was good. Hotel was already paid. Everything was taken care of. It was the last day. I said, I'll fast for the rest of the time until I get there if we don't have any money. But they said, give until it hurts. Back to that point. And they're not the type, they're not asking, there's no prosperity gospel message there. They were actually challenging us. If we're going to sit back and talk about it, to really live it. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. I checked the account. And I said, we're going to give it all. And by faith, God's going to take care of everything. And we had $1,000, like $1,012. And I got on there. And I already given the $250. And I said, let's do it. And I got on there with our card. And I gave the last $1,000. It was $12 left. And I gave the last 1,000 that we had. This is when the ministry was young. And I was like, okay. All right, God, it's in your hands now. And I was like, oh, man, did we run payroll yet? And I said, hey, Heather, did we run payroll yet? And she goes, no, sir. I was like, I just spent our payroll. And she was like, okay. And I was like, it's in your hands now, God. There's really, I don't know what else to do. I went to bed that night. I woke up. There wasn't a phone call. There wasn't a message, but there was a text with a picture, with a check, sitting on my desk back in Abilene for $7,000 from another ministry that had blessed us. She goes, I'll be depositing this morning, a $7,000 check. Come on, guys. I know that's nothing just to sit there for. Get ready to close. That was a close one, right? I was like, whoa, there's our payroll. Hey, Mike, where's Mike? You know what happened? Right after that, $7,000 check, we run payroll. The very next day, all the lines collapse to our water and our main lines, all the way out to the street. And the plumbers come, and they assess, and they give us an estimate. And Mike says, do you want to know what the total is? I said, I already know. It's $6,000, right? And he was like, yeah, it's exactly $6,000. The change that was left over from the $7,000 after we ran payroll was only $1,000 back then. It was $6,000. God provided a check before the lines ever even busted. It was just another subtle signal that God is saying, I'm in control. Can you trust me? Yet again, can you trust me? See, the tithe, we talk about money, and a lot of times we hear things, and it's just like, oh, we don't want to hear about it. But the Bible says where your treasure is, there your heart is also. And if you look at the Gospels, Jesus talks more about money than he does anything else. Why? Because he understands the power that it holds in our lives. In our lives. There's nothing wrong with having money, but there is something wrong with money having you. There is nothing wrong with having possessions, but there is something whenever you become possessed by what you possess. Then it becomes something. So God says, never let that happen. So the tithe, the first thing that you do when God gives you something, you're acknowledging, God, this was yours from the beginning anyways. I'm not giving you anything. I am returning what already belongs to you. And so what do we see? The Word of God says that the tithe helps us remember and put God first. Secondly, it helps build our faith. And third, it helps with the work and the church. I want you to think about the guys. You see all these guys in the home. I want y'all to raise y'all's hands if you're in the men's home right now. You see all these guys right here around. You'll see these guys, these ushers, working security in the cafe, in the back. You will see this is from the Rise Discipleship Home. And I want to tell you about a guy named Paul. There was a few things I asked him last night. He's a graduate of our home. wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. I want you to know the impact that you make in our lives every day. My why. You help me live out my why. So we can have a men's home, so these lives can be changed, so they can be transformed. I want you to know that you, every single day, have a part in these guys' lives. And oftentimes, you see them here walking around, the earpieces in their ears, they're moving, they're grinding, they're doing all kinds of stuff, but we forget we don't know what they're going through. And we see hands in the air, and you see them jumping up and down and clapping, and you're like, what are they so excited about? And then you start to find out what they went through, and you're like, oh, but that's why they're jumping up and down. That's why they're clapping their hand. That's not weird at all, actually. I'd probably be doing more than that if I was like Paul was at 7 years old, sexually abused by his own uncle, until the time he was 9, when his uncle got him on drugs to numb the pain while he was sexually abusing him, all the way to the age of 14, when he started selling weed and smoking meth. At the end of it all, he tried committing suicide, failed, killing himself. At the age of 21, he started shooting up and doing drugs, started losing his mind. He didn't understand. One day, he was out of town. He thought he bought some drugs. He bought bath salt. And some people beat him up. They left him on some family members, they beat him up. They left him on the side of the road for dead. They thought he was dead. And he was homeless, walking around, lost everything. So people picked him up. They went to Lubbock, where they found our guys fundraising. And they said, we'll take care of you. We'll bring you back to the home. So Paul came about a year ago to the Rise Discipleship Home. He graduated the Rise Discipleship Home, and he's still with us as a graduate, helping us lead in the ministry, helping us lead in this church, what he has been through in his life. When we give, you understand, you're saying, Paul, you're worth it. And all of these guys have a story. Every single one of them, you have a story. We all have a story. Arturo and Brandy. Show that first picture. They came to our church. They've been with us probably from the beginning. And you see them, and you see her serving and running our Connect booth. You see him as an usher, helping lead in our ushers. He helped in our security. He's helped in so many different areas. He's been with us for so long, and you're wondering, why are they so connected to church? Why are they there every time that the doors are open? Why are they there? Why do they serve? Why does she worship like that? Why does she get so excited? Let me tell you about Arturo. His dad took off whenever he was 10. He spent his whole life in and out of juvie. He had his kids taken from him. After he started doing drugs, his kids got stripped from him by the girl that he was with. He was in and out of prison. And at the end of their relationship, they had a $300 a day habit. And they ended up in Houston with Brandy. Now let me reverse and let me share a little bit about Brandy. Brandy was sexually abused by her father from the time she was 5 years old until the day that he died, when she was 10. And she always wondered why her, because she had other sisters. And he never raped the other sisters, just her. And she always wondered, why just me? Can you imagine the doubt of God? Why would you only allow it to happen to me? Why me? Why nobody else? I had to suffer this. I did that. She got pregnant at the age of 15. She quit school. She started smoking meth at 16 until 2 years ago. She had guns held to her head by different men. She started using heroin because it would numb the pain of all the regret and the hurt and the frustration and the unforgiveness that was in her heart. She lost her kids, and together they started losing everything until they went to a rehab. And then after the rehab, they found a transitional living place here in Abilene. And I was talking to them last night as I was on my way to the track. I was there, and I was hearing them story, and I didn't even know this. I didn't even know the pain that she went through. Like, this is why we do what we do. This is why I'm putting this message together for you, to help that little 5-year-old girl that's going through that, so she can find it in her heart and what she already has to forgive her father, so she doesn't hold that on or pass that on to anybody else, because she starts to hate herself for what she did, because now she lost her own kids. But then they found our church. And then they got plugged in, and they started serving. And they got a part, and they became a part of our family. And they've been with us almost every single day. It's my brother right here, Arturo. And I thank God for y'all. It reminds us of our why. It's why we do what we do. The anxieties and the frustrations and the pain and the stuff that we do, that we deal with, is because you're worth it, bro. Your girl is worth it. Brandy is worth it. Paul is worth it. And every single one of you have a story, and every single one of you are worth it. Every single one of you are worth it. And that's why we do what we do.